everybody, welcome back to the Curator Shelf, and you are joining me on a beautiful autumnal evening in Brussels. So yes, I am going to be doing the hashtag Hearth and Home decks. Now this hashtag began by Dawn Michelle of Boho Tarot, so I'll link the original video below. It is a series of prompts for us to look at decks which basically are about feelings of being at home and this autumnal feeling, coziness, that wintry vibe, you know, the chills coming through, warming ourselves up and that kind of thing. When I thought of this, all I could think was like bonfires, and here in Belgium what we have All Saints Day on the 1st of November, of course Halloween being the 31st. We have All Saints on the 1st of November, and it's a public holiday here. And what I have always experienced in Brussels, or not always, but it's very reminiscent of this time, is that we have this beautiful deep mist that covers the city in November. And just seeing people go to the church, to graveyards with these chrysanthemums to pay respect to the dead. It's just been an experience to see people do that and come together. And usually after that, everybody goes for a small little coffee and some waffles or something like that. It's just a period where we just kind of like acknowledge that we're coming into this colder period. So I am really, really happy that this hashtag was made because well, actually, no, I found it a challenge to put the decks together, but then I realized it was a blessing because this time last year when we went into lockdown, it was pretty cruel, to be very honest with you. And I know it happened in many different parts of the world. We had just complete shutdown for about 8 months, which was really, really tough for us. And we came out of it in April this year. So this year, it's going to be another quiet year, let's put it this way. But I thought this would be an opportunity to prepare this time, because at least, you know, we know what we're going for basically. And we're not going to complete shutdown like last year. So there's some hope. But anyway, I thought this would be a good time for me to look at the decks that I have and what fits this kind of theme. So the first prompt, and I just want to check it now, the very first prompt is Hearth and Homes, the deck that feels like coming home. That was really, really difficult because I've grown up in different places, as you all know by now, and with Brussels being for the last 17, nearly 18 years of my life. So I kind of like thought, well, what does feel like, well, what is home actually, to be quite honest with you? And then I realized that the deck that I wanted to show is actually the Fairy Oracle by Arthur Rackham. This is a Lo Scarabeo Oracle deck. But I've already shown this on my channel a few times now. I absolutely love the images. They really remind me of Victorian London, Victorian England. I grew up in the north of England, and they just, that imagery just really takes me back to reading books in the library. They would have images like these. If they were not necessarily Arthur Rackham images, they would be very similar. And it just took me back to that part of my life, being a child growing up. Now, today, these images might look a bit creepy, but I absolutely adore them. One thing to note is that I love the fact that Lo Scarabeo have taken away those borders with all the titles of the cards in 4 different languages around it. That was just so distracting. Now, some cards still do have that. Some decks still have that. But this one doesn't, and I adore it. I absolutely adore it. It kind of like reminds me of what they've been doing with, let's say, the Tarot Muha, the Golden Art Nouveau, the Romantic Tarot. All these decks now, they have these, they have those long titles removed, which I really appreciate. It's not so much of a beginner's deck because the images don't always align with the key, but I use it as an intuitive reader. I use it more for storytelling. I use it because it reminds me and jogs memories. I mean, this image always reminds me of the Whitechapel murders, which is a bit strange but true. Yeah, it's a deck that just I love. I love the fact that it's got a lot of wintry images in it. I love the fact that there's a lot of yeah, I mean, some people would call this a shadow deck. Again, I don't like that term. But I see it more as a deck of, you know, it tells the full story, basically. It tells all the bits that we might not want to see as well. And there's a card in here which I need to show you. And forgive me while I look for it. which really did actually kind of like, it did knock me for 6. So let me see if I can find it. And this is the bit where I can't find the card now. And it's the Judgment card in this deck. So let me see if I can find it, because it's very interesting in its depiction. Where were we? See, the first time I tried filming this video, it came very quickly, and now the card has disappeared. So, and the reason why the Judgment card in this deck is just so amazing is that it reminds me of a tradition that they had, I think it was in the Victorian period. So that's the World. Every other card is coming up except for the Judgment card, and that usually oh, there it is. So in the Victorian period, there were some communities and some persons who had this tradition that when a person passes away, to ensure that they are prepared and fully dressed in their regalia and then placed in beds as if they were sleeping. It's a very strange tradition, I know. So these are, and then photos were taken, photos of the dead. And the reason why I mention it is that the first time I saw this card, that's where it just went back to. And I just thought, whoa, these children are dead, and they're sleeping. But it just shows you really actually where my mind went. And I really like this deck because it really makes me think and push me to another place and push me into another place. And I appreciate it for that. So yeah, so this is my response to the very first tag, which is about decks that feel like home. And yes, this is slightly creepy, but this is Victorian England, and I'm going with it because that feels like home. So the next one is Gather Together, the deck that reminds you of family and friends. Now this was a little bit difficult because I have no decks that remind me of family and friends. I don't know how else to put it. I still don't have that. Maybe because I haven't really worked enough with tarot decks around family and friends. But the one that I pulled out, because it's a world that I love, is the Green Witch Tarot. Now this is a Llewellyn box deck. The author is Anamura. The artist is, let's get it right, it's Kiri Ostergaard-Lenord. And I've already done a review of this deck where I spent 1 month with it, pulling cards from it every single day, and then I did a review of it. But I absolutely adore these cards and the images. So why do they remind me of family and friends? Now, first of all, this is the back, which I think is awesome. But they really remind me of family and friends, because this deck to me, it feels like it's a deck that I want to go and live in. It's a deck that I want to go and live inside these images and be a part of them. And the people in them feel a little bit like, you know, they're a family, and they're a very welcoming family. And I just find that it's a deck that sweeps me away in a very cozy feeling. So yeah, so this is my prompt. This is my answer to that prompt. I did struggle with this particular prompt, really did. There's a few decks I think that I have that can answer it a bit better, but they're still kind of like put away somewhere, so I can't get to them. So this is what I chose instead. And I did want to include the Green Witch in there. I really loved working with this deck when I had it for 1 month. I was a bit sad actually to pack it away. And I think that's a really good sign when you get sad about putting a deck away. One of the amazing things about this deck, which I've already said, is that the guidebook includes information on the flora and the fauna that we see, which is awesome. Like, the guidebook is not just about the key, the guidebook is about the herb in there and the plant and the tree or whatever, the shrub. And I'm like, that is an amazing guidebook. It has also information on the animals in there, and you know, I really love it. I feel like that little girl, actually. I really love this deck. It's a deck that warms my soul from the inside, and I don't know how else to say it, but I feel like when I work with it, I feel like, yeah, this warm, fuzzy feeling. So yeah, so that's the Green Witch Tarot, and that would be the answer to prompt number 2. Ooh. So the third one is Light Up Your Life, the deck that lifts that lights your way through the dark. Now, this is the deck that I was pretty sure that I knew what I wanted to put in there, and I've already done also a month review on this, and that is the Everyday Witch. So yes, I have both the Green Witch and the Everyday Witch, and they for me are different decks. They are not too similar, even though they sound similar and they may have kind of like that witchy theme in the forest. This is by Deborah Blake. The art is by Elizabeth Alba. I love this deck so much that I want to get the mini version and I want to get the Oracle deck. And I know that the Oracle deck apparently doesn't follow an Oracle system that well. I've heard something like that. But I don't care really, because now I've just really fallen in love with this deck. And I'm not sure about the whole soul deck thing, by the way. But this is the deck. And this I've chosen as like light up, that helps light your way, but it can also be in another category. It's a bit weird, this one, because this deck, I didn't realize until I started working with it that it filled a hole. And it sounds a bit weird. It filled a hole in my soul that I didn't really know that it needed addressing until it did. So it comes with another guidebook. It is a Llewellyn deck, you know, so they all come with these really lovely guidebooks. I absolutely love the guidebook in this deck. I would recommend this deck for a beginner. It doesn't have all the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. That's one caveat, but I still think it's a great all-round deck, not just a beginner's deck. Now, these are the backs. It has a beloved black cat on it, and you know me, I've got my black cat. But what I love about these decks, I mean, okay, the images are awesome, but the deck, as I've mentioned many times now on this channel, and you've all heard me say it like 100 times now, it reminds me of that period in my life where it was just really difficult, and yeah, I was looking for a friend basically, and it's almost like this deck has come into my life to say, hey, you're looking for me. Here I am, buddy, kind of thing. And you know, I've mentioned this before, but I used to read the books, The Worst Witch. I know now it's a Netflix series, but I used to read the books, the original books. And, you know, there's The Worst Witch, The Worst Witch Strikes Back, The Worst Witch Returns Again, something like this. And it's Mildred and her friend Maud. And I loved those books, I really did. And this whole deck just takes me back to Mildred and her adventures with Maud kind of thing. And, you know, and there's this cat that's in every single, there it is. There's a cat in every single image, right? And in this one, when we look at the Five of Cups, like, she's heartbroken because those cups, you know, they've lost all that wine into the sea. And the cat's sitting there, and it's about to tuck into a huge lobster sitting on the table going, look here, look what's here, you know, like there's a feast here basically. And I love the deck for it. I love the expressions on the cat's faces. I think we've already passed one of my favorite cards in here. I might have to go back and show you, but here it is. I think we passed it, but there's, yes, in this card, it's so dark now, maybe you can't see it, but in this card, you might see the cat there. And that cat's expression is just awesome. Or there's another card. I mean, there are just so many of them, but there's, you know, there's again and again, it's just the artist, not just the author, but the artist has done an amazing job, not just of the actual figure of the witch, but, you know, that cat that's slinking away next to her. It also holds a lot of expression and body language, like here, like look at the Ten of Cups and look at that beautiful tabby just chilled out. She's just chilled out. She's like at home resting. And this deck just fills me with joy. Now, I don't like that term. I know it's a Marie Kondo term, like the things that spark joy kind of thing. But this deck really does spark joy. I don't know what else to say. And I know that a lot of people like say this is our soul deck or whatever you want to call it. And it might be mine actually. I know I just said something like that similar for the Green Witch, but this is the deck where I think if there was an emergency and I had to go somewhere, I need to grab the deck. It would be this one. This is the one that I would grab and I'd take with me. I mean, look at this, right? this is the High Priestess, right? And look at that cat, the cat saying, let me help you out here. You know, of course, making a mess as it does. But, you know, this is what my cat is like. And look at the Three of Cups here, right? Look at the energy of those cats as well. So I don't know how else to put it, but this deck again and again, just, it really kind of like goes back to that feeling of like, you know, I was thinking about it again today, like having like a partner in crime, like having something that, yeah, someone that's right next to you going, I'm here with you for the ride, for the journey, don't worry about it, you know. And there's a sassiness in this deck and a kind of like a confidence from that witch, which I really love, you know. And that's what I tap into, that confidence of like, yeah, we can do this, it's okay, like, you know. Yes, you can have like your ship come in and bear the fruit of that labor and enjoy it and put your feet up and read your favorite book and enjoy something to drink and just relax and chill out there. I mean, what more could I want from a card? I'm just trying to see where the cat is actually. Oh, the cat is wrapped around her neck. Can it be any more perfect? So yeah, like I love this deck, and I'm going to shut up now because I've just realized I'm going on and on and on. But yes, so the next prompt is rainy days, the deck that you want to color with on a rainy day. Now, that was a bit strange. Like, what would I put there? So, I think that the deck that I want to color with on a rainy day, and here it is this is it, the Wildwood Tarot. So I think a lot of people have shown this deck in their videos too. I guess it's a rainy day, or maybe it's also bonfire nights. I don't know actually. They all in Northwest Europe, it rains and it's bonfire at the same time. Let's put it that way. So, but yeah. So now the Wildwood I have been modding. I took off all the borders and then I edged it, and it has had a bleed through. Now the borders have gone a bit funny because of course I cut them, so they're not even now there. That doesn't really bother me, but I did edge it and there's some bleed through, so you can see that, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I think the deck looks fine. It's a gorgeous deck. It's gorgeous imagery. This is a deck that I really love because we're out in nature and it really still feels like I'm protected while I'm in nature. I don't know how else to explain it. The deck just always reminds me that no matter what, that nature is working with me. You know, nature is on my side. I use this deck for my month ahead readings, and I use this deck sometimes for special festival readings as well. But it's a deck that I will pull out at the beginning of every month. It is my guiding star, my guiding light in that sense. It's also a deck, and it says about rainy nights. I guess this is it, but it's just a deck that is really good at just sitting with nature. I think that's the best way I can put it. When it's raining here, it just feels like nature's coming in, kind of thing. And it's a deck that just, you know, helps me just to sit with that feelings of like all the elements and really enjoying that very primordial energy, which is really sometimes difficult to tap into in the middle of a city, but it allows me to go into that primordial energy, which I absolutely love. Okay, so that is the Wildwood Tarot. Now the next one, Handmade with Love. That one I can for sure say that has got to be the Mother Mary deck. I absolutely love this deck because I do think it has been created with a lot of love. Now the images, it's an Alana Fairchild deck, but I know that the images were created by an artist and then they were bought for this deck. Basically, they weren't created for this deck, they were already in creation. I absolutely love this deck. It's so soothing, it's so gentle, and the way that the images look, it does feel to me very homespun, very, I don't know how else to put it, but the images feel very soft and intricate and layered and they kind of like remind me of quilts. I don't know why, but they do. They remind me of being cocooned, which is here, of course, in an energy of just absolute, for me, and I know this might trigger some people, so I appreciate this is not a deck for everyone. I really wholeheartedly appreciate that. The way I see this deck is an energy of being cocooned, that motherly energy of softness, kindness, forgiveness, acceptance. Acceptance is a better word, I think. Acceptance of just pure calm. That's what I think of when I see this deck, and the image is calm. And the writing, actually, Lana Fairchild's writing is also really, really good for this. Very soothing energy, and I've really appreciated this deck. I don't pull from it that often because I actually find the energy really, really potent. So it's almost as if I pull a card from here, that energy feels its presence for like weeks. That's how strong that energy feels, and I might have it on my altar. I like to do that. Put one of these cards on my altars, and it's really lovely just to have it sitting there. So and that's the Mother Mary Oracle, and that's what I feel is like a homespun gift. Okay, so the next prompt, I think I'm running out of prompts actually. Oh no, grateful, blessed, appreciate the good times. What helps me appreciate the good times? I'm not sure about good times, but I think this kind of like crosses into the whole rainy days kind of thing. But the deck that makes me feel grateful, I'm just going to say that, grateful, is the Crow Tarot, which I know sounds a bit strange, but I like this deck a lot because it's the first deck that I got when I came back to tarot after that really long period away. And it, like, just so you know, friends were laughing. They were like, you had 5 decks for 5 years, and then all of a sudden I went to, I must buy some more, and they just laughed so much because they were like, okay, like, yeah, you're making up 5 years of not having any decks. So I love this deck though. It makes me feel grateful because I had such a lovely experience with it when I came back to tarot. So it's by MJ Cullinan, and she's a Seattle artist, and of course now she's done Guardians of the Night, she's done the Grimulkin, she's done the Crow Oracle, she's done the Wise Dog, she's done so many now new ones. She's also, there's another new one called the Foraxa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'd love to get that too. Those are indie decks. This is mass market US games. But this deck does make me feel grateful because I think it's because of the Crow energy. This deck, I don't know how else to put it. Maybe not grateful, but this deck gives me a bit of a kick up the bum when I'm feeling down. I don't know how else to put it. And I guess gratitude does that, right, to us as well. Or when we do a gratitude list, there's a bit of a kick up the bum, like, look what actually is in my life, right? And I feel like the Crow deck does that for the Crow Tarot does that for me. It gives me a little bit of like look and pay attention. Everything that you need is right in front of you. Just have a good look at it. And I like that. And I like these crows actually, and because I go running a lot and I see them a lot, I guess it just feels like they're a companion, you know, they're like a spirit companion for me. And so yeah, I'm not sure actually I don't even know which prompt this falls under, but I wanted to include the Crow Tarot because it means a lot to me. It's autumnal energy for sure. I sometimes have to put it away so I don't use the deck, otherwise I would use it all the time and just really ignore a lot of my other decks basically. But yeah, I love it, and I love the power that crow shows at times. It's a very powerful image. So yeah, this is the Crow Tarot, and then finally the last one, right, the last deck, and I saved it right till the end. Cozy and Comfy, the deck that always is there for you. And this was a bit difficult and challenging actually because I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to put into this category actually because there's 2 very different decks that are always there for me. And I think that's really true to who I am. And so I'm going to show you first one, which I love, is the Herbcraftor's Tarot. Now, this deck is by artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Letitia Guthrie. I love the deck. I love the images and I love the writing. The writing is awesome. Apparently, I think, as I recall, the writing was done on a retreat or some kind of, yeah, a special time, a special place away kind of thing. It's a US Games deck. Yeah, US Games Systems. And I really, really love this deck because I used it this spring after coming out of that really long winter, basically. And it was still difficult in the spring. And this deck was just awesome. It was just awesome. It was just so gentle. And it was like the herbs and the plants through the images was somehow soothing me. Go figure, right? But they were just so soothing. These are the backs. And yeah, I really, the thing about this deck that reminds me, and I know that the first prompt was on like Hearth and Home, and I think they kind of like all overlap for me a little bit, but this deck has images which remind me of being out in the countryside in Europe. And I think that's why I really, really love this deck so much. It sometimes just reminds me of being out there. I love the fact that also it includes people of color, which is really cool. And I just love the spices and the herbs and the plants and just everything, you know, that cool jug of water that we've got there. And there's a card in here, and I don't know if you'll have the patience to wait with me, but there's a card in here, many cards actually. I mean, look, this is death in this deck. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. And look at those chrysanthemums. Oh, marigolds, sorry, they're not chrysanthemums, they're marigolds. But this deck just has, it's like smelling your mother's cooking, that kind of deck, you know. And it feels as if this deck says you've always got a place here, you know, you've always got a home. You know, you've always got a home. You can always come home here. And there's an actual image in here which I'm not sure if I can get to as quick as. I mean, look at this. This is a Christmas image. I mean, just look at that. I love that. I love stuff like that because it's an all year round deck, you know, all throughout the year. At any time you can use it. It's always there for you. Getting hold of these things also is not so difficult. It's not like it's got plants in here which might be the most difficult to get hold of. Like this is cayenne, you know, cayenne pepper. You can find that these days anywhere, kind of thing, you know. This is just, you know, this is cacao, you know, this is the Hierophant cacao. So yeah, I absolutely love this deck, and I'm trying to find the card actually that I wanted to show you all, but I don't think I will be able to. This is Temperance Camellia. I mean, just absolutely fantastic, you know. That really, it's Nine of Earth, Nine of Pentacles is apples. I mean, talking about having everything come together, you know, apples and that beautiful star shape of the apple just taking us right back to that pentacle energy. So it's getting very dark here. Sorry about the light. Let me see if I should switch this on, which might help. Yeah, it will help. There we go. So yeah, so there we go. So some of the cards. Oh, sorry about that. You haven't seen some of these images well enough. This is the card that I wanted to show you. This is Three of Cups, and it's a kids' garden party. And the reason why I wanted to take this deck and show it again was because the first time this card came up, it kind of like made me cry a bit because it just reminded me of my childhood and that feeling of innocence And I think it was okay for me to just have that come up, you know, just have that kind of like feeling of like, do you remember what it's like when, like, doing a picnic with your teddy was the most important thing in the world? So it makes me, you know, these prompts are interesting. This deck makes me feel really grateful in many ways, because it takes me back to that point of in life where, you know, we weren't running to try and do something or keep up with something or buy something or save for something or sort out something or be the best at something, or, you know, it just that life, it just goes back to a more calmer calmer sense of being. This is a really long video, it's 30 minutes now, so I'm going to stop now. I'm not sure if the prompts all align to the decks that I've shown. I think they don't so much, but I think they give a general feel of this vibe of Hearth and Home. The deck that I was a little bit cautious of showing, and I wasn't really sure, I don't know if I should, is, you know, I've talked about it a lot on my channel, is the Deviant Moon deck, which is not really an autumnal deck, right? It's really not an autumnal deck. It's very much, well, it is an autumnal deck in the sense like it goes really well for Halloween, basically, for Samhain. But I think it's a deck that we can use all year round. But the deck that I wanted to, the reason why I wanted to mention it was that I've recently seen a few comments about how this deck, you know, it gives people the creeps and all these kind of things. Now, the deck does have some really, really strange images, and there might be, I've used the word vulgar, there might be strange and all of that, but I found this deck to be really accepting of who I am, and yeah, the part of me that ticks. I won't go more into it because I've already spoken about it too much in other videos, but it really harks back to that. And when I was doing these prompts, it was really hard to think, where do I put this? Because it's not a homely feeling in that sense, and it's not a bonfire night feeling, and it's not a like lights your way in the dark feeling kind of thing, but it's a feeling of allowing like my whole energy to be able to rest a little bit. This is the deck that allows that a bit in that sense. It's almost like there's the Herbcrafters, which is all kind of like the world and that kind of restfulness. And then there's the Deviant Moon, and for me, this is like the restfulness mentally, you know, in the mind, and that's the only way I can put it. So anyway, this is a really long video. I'm going to stop there. It's a bit of a ramble. This is not my forte. I'm so sorry if I've let anyone down. Hearth and Homes is not my forte, but I've tried my best to come up with some prompts. And thank you for watching, and see you soon.